What's up, Indy 500 Evolution fans? Welcome back to the Indy 500 Evolution Career Mode. We are wrapping up the 1963 season today at the Milwaukee 200, one of the craziest races on the calendar because of the fact that there is a lot of lap traffic. Usually it's a big grid. I think it's like 25 cars. And of course the AI struggle to get through the lap traffic, so there almost always is at least one major pileup. As you can see, the point standings, the actual points championship is going to come down to a two-car race between Eddie Sachs and Dick Rathman. Pretty much the first driver to cross the line ahead of the other one will win the championship. Mathematically, we can only get up to about third in the championship after DNFing at the Trenton 300, unfortunately, when we blew up the engine and then crashed, so that was no good. Yeah, we can theoretically hop all the way up to third, mathematically anyway. Milwaukee's one of my better tracks. Again, we are going to be taking over our Lotus Offenhauser. I would assume that the Lotuses of Dan Gurney and Jim Clark will be there as well, so it's going to be a really stacked grid. Let's get qualified at Milwaukee. So here we go. Rich Cook is the first driver who is about to take a qualifying attempt, and
great speed from car
he goes to
109
109 miles an hour. So Rich is on the pole, but obviously gets knocked off there very quickly by Dick Rathman, one of the drivers going for the championship in today's race.
Lap.
And Rathman is doing everything he needs to do because he's on the pole. Tingelstedt did not knock him off. Johnny Rutherford goes to second with a 116-mile-per-hour run. Max Wiggley
is next.
What a name Max Wiggley is, as he goes to fifth and slowest on the grid.
Fantastic lap.
Johnny Boyd in fourth. AJ Foyt's probably going to put up a big number here, I would imagine.
A fantastic
116,
lap.
so to second place goes Foyt. Dempsey Wilson
Car number 29
in sixth.
has qualified for the race.
And Bob Christie is about to go out, and then it'll be us.
Car number 65
So
has
111 miles an
race.
hour for Bob Christie. Going down through the rest of the field, yes, Jim Clark is here, and Dan Gurney is here, but look at the amount of drivers that are at the Milwaukee 200. This is going to be a big stacked grid, like I said, so let's see where we can put our car in the starting order. So yes, the Lotus Offenhauser. We've got a 5-speed transmission in this car with a special Offenhauser engine that's really supposed to be in the 1964 season, but we managed to get ours early. As of course you heard in the last video where I said I managed to talk my good old engine builder into building me a special rear engine version of the Offie, which will be pretty prevalent in next season's proceedings. So, getting down to fourth gear. These turns at Milwaukee are so very long. Of course, this is a mile oval, and the first race I took this Lotus to was at the mile oval at Langhorne. But of course, Langhorne was a complete circle. This is very much a traditional oval. Two very wide sweeping turns and two mid-sized straightaways.
His hand is up.
As we already go to a 119 mile per hour lap to start out, so we're already 2 miles per hour clear of Rathman. And we're going for more. I did not get a very good run through turns 1 and 2. We get down into fourth gear, try to keep the car a little bit closer to the inside of the track so we can accelerate off of the corner, use up all the track. We didn't quite there as we get up into fifth gear, halfway down the main straightaway. 119.2. Wow, we are really killing it right now. So try to run around the bottom of the track, get the car nice and lined up as we get out onto the back straightaway again, up into fifth. And arcing off into turn 3, a little bit of slide going on into there. And on the throttle we go, just clipping the apron. Oh, that was a little too much understeer. And we're going to cross the line at 117, but we should have had the pole. So yes, we do take the pole position. Fantastic. I don't know where the next guy would have been. It possibly is Rathman. We're going to have to see. Let's just skip ahead to take a look at the starting grid. So yeah, Rathman at 117. Sachs, the other points contender, is right next to Rathman, or right behind me, and right behind Rathman on the starting grid. Foyt, Jimmy Clark got 6th. Dan Gurney's all the way back there in 11th at 115 miles an hour. So obviously the power of my 64 Offie engine in this Lotus chassis is a very potent combination around Milwaukee. But again, we've got 26 cars in this race. That is going to mean a lot of traffic. 50 laps. We're probably going to be lapping some of the back markers 2 to 3 times. It's going to be wild. Let's see if we can hold off Rathman and Sachs and Foyt and the rest of the boys here at Milwaukee.
Here we are at the Milwaukee Mile, the oldest speedway in the world, with auto racing taking place here since 1903. The grandstands offer great views of the track, and the 1 mile course offers great driving for the competitors.
So the pace car is pulling off. We are ready to rock and roll here at Milwaukee. You can see the grid forming up behind me, and we are racing. There goes Sachs making a move on Rathman already. Contact, and we got a big crash already. Car number 93, that is Dan Gurney. Did not hear the number of the other driver involved.
Car number 81 appears to have engine trouble. Car number 93 is lifting back to the pits.
So 81 and 93. So we know that 93 is Dan Gurney in one of the Lotus Fords. Don't know who 81 is. Trying to wait till the scoring monitor goes through. Of course, this game tries to be accurate and that the scoring isn't very quick. So we've already got a lapper there on the back straightaway. Very slow. Got to be careful. Car driving around on 3 wheels. It's Lloyd Ruby. Lloyd Ruby and Rich Cook. And there's a big crash behind, I think. I think 52. That, oh man, it's already wild already. Got a car coming out of the pits. Holy smokes. So it's all kicked off. Car number 1, I think, is AJ Foyt. No, it's Roger Ward. So we're already having big names falling out of this race, and somehow I managed to avoid it all so far. So Gurney's out of the pits, but he's well behind the race at the moment. Running in 25th spot. Car number 9 is second. Can't remember who car number 9 is, but we got a lot of lap traffic coming out of the pits now, so we're immediately going to be into it. Eddie Sachs is behind us. Johnny Rutherford up into 3rd. Bobby Grimm 4th. Tinglestat and Jimmy Clark. Parnelli Jones is back to 8th. Jones is usually one of the better competitors, so he should be coming up through the field. He did come up through the field at Langhorne as well. But big names, Foyt, Ward, Gurney, all out of contention. Lloyd Ruby as well at the moment, and we are coming up into heavy lap traffic. So you can see they're all spreading out. There's a lot of the cars that have crashed are coming out of the pits, or maybe that's another crashed car coming into the pits, actually. Hard to tell, hard to tell. Yes, that is a car peeling off into the pits. So that's another car damaged. Not sure why. It didn't look like he was missing any wheels. Might be a mechanical issue of some sort, or more contact out on the circuit. We've got 3.3 seconds on Eddie Sachs, so we're pulling away. Obviously that big wreck or whatever happened in the mid-pack there with the lappers really threw things into a flux here. And that's AJ Foyt coming up behind. So Foyt, it's going to be interesting to pass, that's for sure. Foyt's a hard racer, especially because we're in one of those funny cars, the rear engine cars. You know, AJ maybe doesn't take too kindly to these things as we're still working to the inside of Foyt. He's definitely not making it easy on me. You can see the Roadster has a little bit more straight line speed than my whoa, almost kind of forced Foyt up the track a little bit. I outbraked myself a little bit. Sorry to AJ. That was my bad, but we finally get around Foyt and set off in pursuit of the next lap car. Who it might be Rathman, as we're still lapping this poor 78 car, Max Wiggley. Poor guy, he is just completely off the pace at the moment. Pretty sure this is his first race for poor Max Wiggley, and yeah, he picked the wrong one to show up to, and yeah, I think that is Rathman up there. I think I miscalled it as Ruby earlier. There's quite a few red and white cars, though. So it wouldn't surprise me if I've miscalled it 2 or 3 times. But that's not good for Rathman. He's going to need something to happen to Eddie Sachs for him to be able to possibly get into this championship winning position. Yes, that's Rathman. He's in 20th position after starting on the outside of the front row. So he must have been the guy who got into trouble behind the lap car.
A great pit stop for car number 78. Car number 78 is whipping back to the pits.
And car number 78 just continues to have trouble. He keeps coming in and out of the pits, that poor Wiggley guy. Clearly getting beat up in his first championship race. As we're working a little too high in the groove there. And yeah, Max Wiggley coming back into the pits. Wow, what a shame for him. And what a shame for Dick Rathman as well. Not anywhere near the points at the moment. He's going to need some serious, crazy stuff to happen to get back into contention for this points championship. Eddie Sachs is doing everything he needs to do, just staying in second place, regardless of whether he's 6 seconds behind me or not. Rathman, on the other hand, is about to go 1 lap behind the race. Or maybe more than 1 lap behind the race, depending on where he came in and out of the pits. Considering he was second on the first lap. We don't know where he is, though. And he was not very kind to me going into the corner there. I couldn't really get underneath him. You can see the acceleration of this Lotus with the offie in the back. And then we're going to work to the inside. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. Well, I just took a championship contender out of the race. And Eddie Sachs will take the lead. Oh, that was such a bad move on my part. Oh my God, I feel so bad. There comes Rathman out of the pits. Thankfully, the game ghosted him there, so he could come back into the pits. But oh my gosh, I feel so terrible. Wow, poor Dick Rathman. And he is not going to be happy with me as we're going to the outside of Max Wiggley, who's still struggling, but we're going to have to race Eddie Sachs now, and this time we're not going to... Oh, I hope I don't take him out. That was the same thing I'd almost done to Foyt earlier in the race. And now Rathman's all the way back to 24th. Somehow my car managed to remain undamaged. I don't know how it's possible. But AJ Foyt as well also got unlapped there in that situation. AJ unlapped himself. So now Sachs is trying to chase down and lap AJ. And we're working in behind Sachs. And again, Wiggley is just continually in a continuous loop of limping back to the pits. I feel like we're going to be hearing that all race long. Unless he finally gets knocked out of the race.
Car number 78 makes a pit stop.
Poor Max Wiggley. But we've got to get on it here. We've got to get by Eddie Sachs. We still got a long way to go. And man, what a terrible mistake. I feel so bad. I can't even tell you. Rathman was already essentially out of the race. But that's no justification for straight up wrecking a guy. Especially when you're the leader and he's a lap car.
That was a slow stop for car number 78.
Pretty unacceptable mistake. And I suspect once we get into 1964, Dick Rathman's going to want my head on a platter. But now we've got to go after Eddie Sachs after essentially handing him the championship, although it was already pretty much well in hand of Sachs at that point. And Sachs is absolutely on it. But preferably, I'd like to be up in the first place in this race because I'd quite like to be third in the championship if we can. After losing it to Parnelli Jones last season, and of course winning it in our rookie year, be good to have some momentum rolling into 1964. We'll just try to keep the car on the bottom here. We'll be able to pass Sachs pretty soon here. We're going to have to do it on the exit of the course, though, as we are coming up behind not only AJ Foyt, but more lap traffic ahead of him. Max Wiggley still struggling with his car. And he's never had the front end repaired on his car. I wonder just when they're going to retire that car, if they are going to retire that car. Because he has been struggling for the last 19 laps of this race. I'm pretty sure he got crashed on the first lap. And my car is a little bit damaged, I suspect, because you can hear it just kind of cutting out a little bit. That's how the game lets you know that there's some kind of mechanical fault with your car, is that your engine kind of makes a glitchy noise.
That was a slow stop for car number 78. Car number 78.
We get a really good run on Sachs here, and then the car starts to cut out a little bit. So it seems to be getting progressively worse as the race rolls on, and we're not even halfway through the Milwaukee 200 at the moment. But again, lap traffic is going to be a big time factor as we're coming up on AJ Foyt and a lot of the back of the field.
Car number 78 makes a pit stop.
Trying to get an exit on Eddie Sachs, and we're going to work around the outside. Are you kidding me? This is not the best move in the entire world, but it's where I got the run. Sachs moves to the outside. We just stay in line there. Going to try to diamond off the corner again. Couldn't quite do it as effectively as I had coming out of turns 3 and 4. We're going to work in behind Eddie Sachs, get a little bit of draft going, whatever we can on a 1 mile oval.
Car number 78. Car number 78 is whipping back to the pit.
And working to the inside, try to diamond the corner off, get a good run on Eddie Sachs. Almost in the grass we go. Up into 5th. Sachs again has the legs on us down the straightaway. We're going to lift off early to try to prevent what we did to Rathman and Foyt.
Number 78 makes a pit stop.
And now working to the outside. Again, not a very good run on Eddie Sachs yet. AJ Foyt starting to work through lap traffic. Of course, that's not lap traffic to him. Those are probably cars that he's racing for position as we get on it out of turn 4. This time unfettered exit there behind Eddie Sachs. And working our way down into turns 1 and 2. Down 1 gear. Right down next to the white line. Try not to understeer into the wall. We're pretty good there. Not quite where we need to go. Now we're going to get held up by Wiggley, who's down here on the inside of the track, so we can't quite take the aggressive line down the bottom of the track that I'd like to, but it looks like Sachs is a little bit squirrely on the outside of him. We're going to try to work on the outside of Sachs. Not going to happen just yet. Eddie Sachs still holding on to the lead. Well, this is pretty even now that I have a damaged car and Sachs doesn't, but we're coming up behind lap traffic. This is going to be a very key moment in the race. Who can get it done as the car sputters and spits at me. We go down a gear, try to diamond off the corner here, right down under the white line to the inside of Sachs. Not quite. Down into 4th. And is that car going to hold him up? Is Rich Cook going to hold up Eddie Sachs? Not particularly. Sachs is going to work down to the bottom. I think he's going to clear him here. Yes, he is. But that's a very high line for Sachs to be running. We're going to absolutely put the car in the grass to get around Cook. Wow. That was a little close, I have to admit. That was a little close. That was a very aggressive move from me. We had to do it because you can just see the lead that Sachs was able to pull out, getting lucky in the traffic.
A great pit stop for car number 78.
As we have crossed over the midway point in the race. As I'm sliding the car through 3 and 4. Now we're getting a good run. We're getting a good run on Sachs. So we need a really good chance here in the traffic. We've got to hope that he holds up Sachs here, where he doesn't need to be fast. There we go on the exit of the corner. It looks like the lapper's going up the track a little bit. Now it looks like Sachs is going to get him on the entry, maybe. No, he held up Sachs. He blocked him going into the corner. Bob Veith. And I think we're going to try to get to the inside. Sachs is held up. We're held up by Sachs. And we're going to pin him in behind the lap car. I forgot to shift up a gear.
Pit stop for car number 78. Car number 78
oh, Bob Veith. is running my line. Sachs is going to work to the outside. Veith is just blocking us both. And now I box Sachs in, but is he going to be able to make it? The car sputters down the back straightaway. Sachs is going to work back to the outside and back into the lead for now. We've got 2 lap cars now. To the inside of Eddie Sachs we go. In behind Veith we go. Max Wiggley still causing trouble. Why has he not been black flagged yet? Root Usac, what are you thinking? Whoa, in behind Veith. And we give Veith a little bit of the chrome horn there, get him out of the way. Maybe we helped Eddie Sachs a little bit, though. I think we did, because Sachs is now going to work to the inside, but we've got the lead back. And now it's going to be a battle between myself and Eddie Sachs, as Sachs is on the outside of Bob Veith. Not sure why he's out there. And we work lap number 30. 20 laps to go. Well, I said this race would be crazy. And now we're coming up actually behind Dan Gurney. AJ Foyt, Dan Gurney up there. That's a lot of big name drivers that we're going to have to work our way through. Eddie Sachs is still closing in just a little bit, especially on the straightaways. Let's see if we can get the run off of turn 4. Oh, absolutely. Pull out a big lead on Sachs there. We're going to lose it all on the straightaway. Lifting off into turn 1. Again, Max Wiggley coming out of the pits. And we'll pass him fairly easily. Well, they better be having a good pit stop. I mean, they've been doing pit stops all race long. I think that's Roger Ward, AJ Foyt, Dan Gurney. That's like friggin' Mount Rushmore of racing that we're coming up behind. As we work down the main straightaway, we put a second on Sachs.
Car number 78 makes a pit stop.
Down a gear. Bob Jenkins really wants us to know about the pit strategy of the 78 car. The obsession of the 78 is getting to Rick Allen levels, people. To Rick Allen levels. As we go down a gear, trying to chase down AJ Foyt. Or possibly Roger Ward, not sure which driver this is. Parnelli Jones is up to 5th. What did I tell you about Parnelli and moving up through the field? That's actually put Jim Clark back to 7th in the Lotus Ford, not the Lotus Offenhauser that I'm driving. We go up a gear, Sachs still back there, lurking. Only a second is the gap. And, oh, that was almost a crash there. That was almost a crash. 2 or 3 cars up ahead. AJ, I think, got into somebody as he's coming up through the field like a demon, and he pushed one of the cars wide, and Dan Gurney almost got involved in that as well. And there is a crash. There was a car, and there is a big one right there. Somebody up in the wall, one of the red cars, and that's AJ Foyt involved in it again. An innocent bystander that time. And now Dan Gurney making a little bit of contact with whoever that was. I think it's possibly Troy Ruttman, maybe. It's tough. There's a lot of white cars in this at the moment. It's actually Alan Crow that we're about to overtake, and Eddie Sachs is suddenly closed in as I had to avoid the crash. I wonder if that was Lloyd Ruby that had that contact and got up into the wall in turn 2. But regardless, now we've got some serious traffic to deal with as we work underneath Crow, get around him. Maybe, got to block him to the outside. Again, the Roadsters are faster on the straightaway than the rear engine cars as we get a little bit outside. And Eddie Sachs, what a move down to the inside. But he didn't get there. He tried. Oh, Lordy, he tried, but he couldn't do it. That was a fantastic move from Eddie Sachs. Very aggressive. Must have learned something from me in traffic. Eddie Sachs to the outside. He's going for it. And now behind Bob Christie again. The car sputters down the main straightaway. It seems to not like to draft with people anymore. You can just hear it. Sputtering and stalling. Eddie Sachs closing in. Down a gear, 4th gear. Sachs looking to the outside. That was a mistake. Unless I can't get around Bob Christie, in which case he may have just saved himself. Down the main straightaway. Come on, baby. We can get down to the inside of Christie. I think we can. Oh, it's so close. That is literally touching tires. And somehow I got down in front of Eddie Sachs so that he could not sneak down to the inside of me. That was very close racing there.
Car number 78 makes a pit stop.
And it was a little too close. As you just saw in the background, Eddie Sachs tried to take a dive at me, took a swipe, couldn't quite get there. We launch our car up into 5th gear. Got around Max Wiggley, so we don't have to worry about him. On the throttle hard, off of turn 2. Up into 5th. Again, half a second we've managed to put ourselves between Eddie Sachs. And of course, Johnny Rutherford's back here, waiting in the wings if something happens. I just heard car 26. Did I hear that correctly? Yes, 26. Not sure who that is, but there is some debris here on the back straightaway. So something else is... Whoa! Whoa! I'm so glad I was looking. Parnelli Jones. Parnelli Jones in trouble. He must have hit Max Wiggley. We'll go around the outside of Troy Ruttman, who clearly was affected by that crash. We've got several cars in the pits now.
Car number 54 is smoking. No fuel this time for car number...
We have to be careful coming onto the back straightaway. Not sure what to expect over here.
No fuel this time for car number 98. Car number 78 is smoking.
You just hear all the list of cars that were involved in the crash.
No fuel this time.
Thankfully, it didn't happen on my end of the speedway, so I didn't see it. As we're within 10 laps to go now. And we're coming up behind Dan Gurney to lap him.
That was a slow stop for car number 92.
And Jim Clark was involved in it. You just heard number 92, that was Jim Clark. So both Lotuses, or both Lotus Fords, I should say, involved in accidents. Bud Tingelstadt coming out of the pits very slowly, causing some issues for me trying to get around him. Don't want to run too high there. Tingelstadt gonna hold on to that track position at the moment. And Johnny Rutherford's up to second. Something has happened to Eddie Sachs. Eddie Sachs falls through the field. Crazy, crazy stuff happening right now. So Johnny Rutherford moves up into second. More crash. There's crashing happening somewhere on the track, but I don't know where it is because I've managed to avoid it all. As we work underneath Bud Tingelstadt. Can't quite get there. Troy Ruttman coming out of the pits. So Don Branson moves into 3rd place.
Car number 14 makes a pit stop. A great pit stop for car number 17. Car number 78 is smoking.
And you can just hear friggin' Bob Jenkins has not stopped talking this entire last 5 minutes. There's so many cars crashed. As we got another car down to the inside, and we got to be real careful here. Max Wiggley still causing issues down to the inside. Somehow he didn't get into the pits. Got another car coming out of the pits right here, or possibly damaged. Yeah, you know, he's trying to get into the pits. Don't know who that was down to the inside.
That was a slow stop for car number 14.
And now my car's starting to feel very sluggish. Because I got to get on it here. We're going to go underneath Tingelstadt because he was held up by Eddie Johnson. And possibly the inside of Eddie Johnson. That's contact with Tingelstadt. Somehow managed to save it. Woo-wee! That is not what you want to be doing in open wheel cars. I've banged wheels so much today and I've managed to get away with it each time. Oh, God almighty. I swear I'm not doing this intentionally. That would have been a comedy thing if I'd meant to do it. But I didn't mean to do it. Oh, God almighty. So we got 4 laps to go. Well, I really wanted the satisfaction of lapping Dan Gurney. I don't think it's going to happen. Especially now that Tingelstadt's kind of gotten in our way here as we got two cars going side by side into turn 3, and they're coming up on Max Wiggley. That is probably going to cause some trouble. It seems like everybody's managed to get through there okay. But the legend that is Max Wiggley has been born today. What a guy. What a guy. Okay, so up behind Bud Tingelstadt we go. Trying to, anyway.
That was a slow stop for car number 78.
And there we go, off the corner. Nice launch. Too bad this is a 5-gear car. I finally felt like I had some acceleration on the Roadster there, and I just couldn't get around him. Car stumbles in turns 1 and 2. Got 2 laps to go.
Car number 78 makes a pit stop.
We're just going to stay in 4th gear. Screw it. That didn't really help anything, did it? Maybe it'll help on the exit. Can we get around Tingelstadt? No. We're going to slice to the inside. We got 1 lap remaining.
It's the final lap.
And how far are we ahead of Rutherford? We're ahead 3.2 seconds. So no big deal.
A great pit stop for car number 78.
Up into 5th. Maybe we can get around Tingelstadt by the line. Hoping nobody causes any trouble here. It's looking like Gurney might try to pass that car by the line. We're going to get around Tingelstadt, and we are going to take victory in the Milwaukee 200. What a crazy race, as it usually is.
Car number 78 makes a pit stop.
So I take the victory over Johnny Rutherford and Don Branson. Chuck Holst, Jim McElreath, Johnny Boyd, Dempsey Wilson, Eddie Johnson, AJ Foyt moved all the way up into 9th place after crashing twice in the race. Bob Christie took 10th. Eddie Sachs finishes 11th, out of the points, but will, I believe, clinch the championship. As we go down through the rest of the field, look where your favorite driver is, if you have a favorite driver in the 1963 Championship Series, as Max Wiggley likes me, and the legend finishes last. So, let's head back and take a look at the final season points. So, a wild cap off to the season. That was 1963. As you can see, the season champion was Eddie Sachs. We did move up into 3rd in the points. I can't believe it, only beating out Don Branson by a single championship point. Dick Rathman was too far ahead to really get a good lock on to pass him. And of course, AJ Foyt won his first Indy 500 this year. So Sachs took Trenton, Foyt took Indy. Sachs took the first Milwaukee race. I took Langhorne. Bobby Grimm won at Trenton, and then I took the second Milwaukee race. So I won 2 races, Sachs won 2 races, and then the other 2 were split between 2 other drivers. That means there's probably going to be a very competitive 1964 season. Of course, now that we've made the change to the rear-engined Lotus, are we going to stick with it for 1964, or are we going to go back to the more powerful but less well handling of the Roadsters? It still seems like, as you can see from the Series Championship and the Indy 500, that the Roadster is still the car to have. It's going to be a very interesting decision, and I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments of what I should run. So thank you guys so much for watching. Indy 500 Evolution is one of my favorite series to produce. I know some people have let me know in the comments that it's their favorite series of mine that I do. So thank you once again, everybody, for all the continued support, and we'll see you in the 1964 championship season.